log 3 in base 2 minus log 6 in base 2. Because the two bases are exactly the same, we can apply the law of logs that says 2 logs being subtracted. What we can do here is combine them into one single log in the same base, in base 2, and then the operation that we will now use to connect that 3 and the 6 will be division. So 3 divided by 6. I'm using the fraction line, but it's the same as division. So now we simplify this, so we have log in base 2 of 3 sixths, same as a half. Now we need to still simplify, applying the definition of log. To apply the definition of log, probably easy if I write that log of a half in base 2 equals question mark. I could even call that question mark x. So let's remove that question mark and replace it with x, just to be able to apply the definition. So how do we apply the definition? Well, we know that the answer to this log is the same as the exponent for this little 2 here. 2 to the power of x, so 2 to the power of what, will give us 1/2. So let's rewrite that in exponential or power form. 2 to the power of what will give us 1/2. So the bases of these two powers here are very similar. One is 2, but the other one is the inverse, 1/2. So what I could do here is keep this one, the first one, there's nothing to change there. It's as simple as we could write it. But 1/2, we could rewrite this, that it's exactly the same as 2 on the bottom here, 2 to the power of 1. I could take the inverse, the reciprocal, and write it 2 to the negative 1 over 1, but that 1 will blend in anyway. So now that we look at the bases of these powers, they are exactly the same. We can even ignore them and say our answer is -1. So final answer for, let's write on the top here, final answer for log of 1/2 in base 2 is -1, because 2 to the -1 is the same as a half. If we wanted to look at another example, log of 3 in base 2 plus log of 1/24 or 1/24 in base 2. Same as before, because the bases are the same, we can apply the law of logs that says when 2 logs are connected with an addition, we can combine those 2 logs into one single log using exactly the same base. And the way we're going to connect the 3 and the 1/24, which were the numbers inside each one of the logs separately, we are going, because we have an addition of logs, we are going to have a multiplication of those 2 elements there. So it's going to be the log of 3 multiplied by 1/24. Let's simplify this. Well, this is going to be log in base 2. 3 times 1/24 is 3/24, and we should simplify this. I mean, it's just like we have a 1 in the bottom, so don't worry about the ones, but we have to simplify. 3 goes into 3 once, and 3 goes into 24 8 times. Great. So we have simplified the expression as much as we could, but now we need to find the numerical answer to this log using the definition of log. To use the definition of log, that's when we usually say set it equal the question mark or x again, and then apply the definition. What does the definition say? that the answer to a log is always the exponent that we put the power, the base here to. So 2 to the power of x going anticlockwise equals 1/8. So let's write that in power form. 2 to the power of x equals 1/8. Same as before, we will need to actually take the reciprocal and push that 8 to the top. But first, they are not looking very similar. The left-hand side is a 2, and we cannot factorize this number any further, but the 8 we can. So you could simply think, what is 8 if I wanted to write 8 in base 2? I'll do it on the side here, but we can just do by trial and error, like counting 2 to the power of 1 is 2, 2 to the power of 2, 4, 2 to the power of 3 is 8. Or you do the formal factorization of the number, which is divide the number by prime numbers. So 8, the first prime number I can divide 8 by is 2. 8 divided by 2 gives us 4. 4 I can still divide by 2, so I get answer 2. 2 can still be divided by 2, and I get down to 1. When I get down to 1, that's the end of the factorization of the number. And what do I have here on the right side of this line? 2 times 2 times 2 gives us 8, which is 2 to the power of 3. So that's what we're going to do with that 8. We're going to rewrite it as 2 cubed. Now the left-hand side and the right-hand side are looking more similar than they were before. The only thing we still have to do is take the reciprocal or switch the line, as some people say, but we want to actually write this. The left-hand side is still the same, but on the right-hand side we will write that power on the top, which will mean we need to get the exponent with a different sign. Instead of positive 3, negative 3. Now the bases of these two powers are matching, so we can simply ignore them and say, here we are, x equals negative 3. So the very final answer of log of 1/8 in base 2 will be negative 3, because 2 to the power of negative 3 equals 1/8.